What's up, world? This is your boy SimRenewal, where we finna talk about the Bill Cosby uh, let out. He's out now. I kind of want to get my input, even though it's a couple days later. Uh, it's an interesting conversation between Judge Joe Brown, this black news reporter. I don't know his name per se, but let's just jump into it and I'll give some comments. Yeah.
Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We are here talking once again about the case of Bill Cosby. As you know, he was released to most people's surprise yesterday, walking out of a Pennsylvania state prison because of a very interesting development in his case. And yesterday, many celebrities chimed in on social media. One of TV's most well-known judges, Judge Joe Brown, was one of those people who called out the way that mainstream media had been covering the story. Hours ago, he tweeted, and to be clear, much of this was in response to something I wrote, but he said, anyone who was knowledgeable of American law would have expected and predicted the outcome of the Cosby appeal. Mainstream media in Hollywood incite public disorder by lying to the people about the law and encouraging mob rule. Hollywood reacts to Bill Cosby release with shock. Here to discuss his recent comments, joining me now is Judge Joe Brown. Judge, thank you for joining me. Why do you say that mainstream media encourages mob rule?
Okay, so before Judge Joe Brown gets into this, um, it seems pretty interesting that how this is the Black News Network, yet it's talking about interviewing Judge Joe Brown due to the fact that he speaks out against something that this guy tweets in regards to the Bill Cosby case. So it's the Black News Network is focusing on the disagreement between two African American men who are one who's like a judge. He's famous for what he does, and he actually says that he disagrees with how everything was handled. And this news reporter who is part of the entertainment and main media perspective who's saying something otherwise. So let's get into it. But just I just want to frame that. I want people to realize that the two African Americans talking about a case on another African American where one is a professional and legal judge and the other one is entertainment for main media, and they have two opposing sides. Remember who writes the entertainment check. Just keep that in your mind.
I've talked to 43 lawyers around the country, 17 judges, and I haven't found one that was shocked by the verdict. Most saw the same thing that I did from day one. This never should have gone to trial. It's a travesty. It's a violation of due process and American law. It is part of this mess that mainstream media is trying to feed into the heads of the citizenry and poison them by saying that their emotions and their feelings are supposed to have paramountcy over what happens within the law. That's not the way it goes. I get people who never even took what they should have gotten in the fourth and fifth grade get to talking about how somebody going to disprove what these women accused Dr. Cosby of. And the truth of the matter is you don't have to. They have to prove that what they claim is true, not the other way around. That's
Mm,
American law. I see too much of this show up on the courthouse, voice your opinion, and get the courts to yield to what you believe. That's not the way the law works. That's called mob rule, mob justice. And if you want a more egregious exemplar, take what happened to Emmett Till and every other black man that's been lynched in the history of this country because somebody got emotional and decided to suborn the law, go around it, and do what their emotions drove them to do.
okay, with that being said, effectively, as a judge and knowing what he's talking about in law, you really can't allow for a person's emotions to define what the outcome of a situation is. Most times, using your emotions to rectify a situation normally causes for the situation to become worse anyway. Uh, I can agree with him that society and mainstream media is, and you look at it from judge shows and things of that nature, then your beliefs, your feelings, and your own self righteousness determine the fate of other people. It's not. It always comes with some form of negative backlash that's never truly understood. Some people will not agree. If you go from the facts and the facts of the case, and literally utilizing simply the facts, even though people might not agree to the outcome, Everything was factual. So there's not room to argue the case itself and the law itself because the law has been upheld by facts alone. I'm gonna let it keep rolling.
So that
So,
is the way things
so
ought
Judge,
to be. Law separates us from the animals, and we can't have this disregard of the law. I want to commend this Howard Dean for being forthright enough to speak out on what the reality is, and I would suggest that they need to strengthen the breadth requirements at Howard University so I don't see such ignorance coming out of this profoundly historic black university. My father went there way back in the 40s.
well, Judge,
And
there's
I'm
two things
rather
going on at
embarrassed to
once,
hear
though, Judge.
things that I have heard come out of that place lately. And if
So, Judge, I
anybody
think
ought
there's
to
two things
understand
happening at
mob
once.
justice, they ought to.
So, Judge, I think there's two things happening at once here. And I think, on the one hand, many of us are legitimately aware, and myself included, that the criminal legal system doesn't give equal outcomes to everybody, that black folk catch the worst end of this, that black men, when it comes to incarceration, get the absolute worst end of this. And the Bill Cosby case is an example of a prosecutor who was dishonest. Bill Cosby, absolutely, if he's told that you won't be prosecuted for giving this deposition and then he gets prosecuted, that is a violation of his rights and that is a violation of due process.
Of course it is.
On the
Violation
other
of
hand,
due process.
but on the right, but hold on, just let me finish this point, Judge.
On going forward should be disciplined.
So there's that.
Yeah.
But then there's the other question that people. So then there's this other question that people though have, Judge, which is a legal question. I mean, which is not a legal question. I think those two things, to some extent, are getting mixed up. And the non-legal question is about whether or not Bill Cosby actually did harm. Legally, you can say he's not guilty because the not guilty stands.
He didn't do anything. American law, there is an absolute presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty beyond a
Did he do
reasonable
wrong?
doubt using due process of law. If there was no due process of
Retrospect to
law,
the individual.
that presumption of innocence does not remove itself, and there is no valid conviction. If there is no valid conviction, that presumption of innocence stands as a rock for
Yes.
the defendant. It is to keep the government from acting in a dishonest fashion and using its powers for persecution. So Dr. Cosby
So I think we're on the
was
same page
not
with
found
that.
guilty through due process. He
He
hasn't
ain't
done
letting them
anything.
talk.
So under
Go ahead.
American law, the accusations are just that. They carry no weight other than accusations, and they must be proven using due process beyond a reasonable doubt. If they have not been, then they are essentially worthless, just so much talk. That's
So I think we're on the same page. So I think we're on the same page with regard to the law. I think part of the challenge, and I sent out a tweet last night that you responded to. I'm going to pull it up. It says, I said, Bill Cosby is not innocent. He has not been exonerated. His release means that Cosby, a sexual predator, was incarcerated within a criminal legal system that has as little regard for its own rules and procedures as does Cosby for his victims. And you responded. You said,
he hasn't had any. Law is a baseless accusation. It has no weight.
So under the law, I think we're on the same page again. But part of the problem,
is in the 4th and 5th grade, not law school. American law means when somebody makes an accusation, that's all it is. It has no weight. If there's probable cause, you have somebody answer the complaint. But if you cannot find someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they have done nothing. They walk out of there with their presumption of innocence intact. How clear can that be? There is nothing to answer.
I think that
he had a right to remain silent.
I think that part is clear. No, I think that part's clear, Judge. Let me move the conversation forward.
The burden of proving his guilt. It did not. So he stands.
Right. So I guess Right. So what I want to do is just move the conversation up a little bit. I think you and I agree that legally he's not guilty, that legally he doesn't have any burden of proof. The state does, and it hasn't met that. Legally, his rights were violated. We're on the same page about that. I'm saying the legal question to me is rock solid. But I think what was happening yesterday was people were conflating those two things. They were acting as if because the state didn't meet its burden and because he was released based on the fact that he didn't get due process, his due process rights were violated, that was somehow proof of the belief that many people had that Cosby was actually not just legally not guilty, but actually didn't do anything at the moral and
in
ethical
ignorance.
level. And
So, I
hold,
mean,
hold on 1 second.
look,
I
look,
just,
look,
I just
look.
want to I want to place.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, hold on. Let me place the question to you. So I guess what I'm saying is, can we hold space for two ideas at the same time? Can someone, under the eyes of the law, be completely not guilty, and at the same time, can we have a public conversation? Because I know you talk about culture, you talk about our community, you talk about values. Can we also talk about the fact that someone can be doing great harm and even be a predator at the same time that legally they're all the things you just said?
Oh, before he gives his response there, I kind of want to. You see how he kind of framed that question? How he framed that? He framed the question as saying, by law, you're innocent, yet by judgment of many other people's opinion, then you're guilty, and you're everything that we assume you are. And can those two ideas exist in the same place? Which not really. Um, let's just use something that most people can understand if they watched any superhero or Marvel movies, DC or Marvel movies. When Batman goes out and he fights crime and he takes in all the bad guys, did he is he the good guy? Did he do the right thing? Yes, he did the right thing. He got the criminals. He helped out the police. He beat the bad guys up, tied them up, left them for the police, everything of that nature. Wonderful. While doing so, did Batman break and entering, or destroy a building, or destroy something that injured another individual? Did he do any of that as well? Most likely, yes. If he ended up doing anything that literally breaks the law, by law, he can still be held responsible for the laws he broke. Yet, that doesn't change the opinion that he's a good guy. So, no, before Judge O'Brown gives his input, I just simply disagree that there can be literally a legal innocence and a societal guilty at the same time.
No, because the law presumes them innocent until you prove them guilty. It is a specious thing. That's part of this new paradigm where everybody gets a trophy, a participation ribbon. Nobody's feelings get hurt. Freedom of speech gets restricted if somebody feels uncomfortable or undelighted by what is being said. That's not our reality.
So let me ask you a question.
Facts.
When George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin and the jury found him not guilty, do you feel that the black community should not have continued to express outrage and call George Zimmerman a killer because under the law he was innocent?
They should express outrage with themselves for lacking such political influence in the selection of the district attorney or in the even weight assigned to them. See, the rules are the same. But from my perspective, I think of all the black folk that have called me over the last 35 of jury service, all of the black folk that voted a handout where you've got a racist idiot on that handout for judge and they don't even pay attention to who's on the ballot. I think of all of the black folk who don't go out and vote for sheriff or
Ooh,
effectively for mayor or for the district attorney and complain about it. See, when you have an opportunity to do something about it, do it. And see, most of the people that are off in the penitentiaries are not in there for playing Robin Hood. They robbed from their neighbors, burglarized their neighbors, killed their neighbors, raped their neighbors, sold poison to their neighbors. And the other thing is, it's not guns. It's not any excuse. It's we have got a lack of manhood and masculinity in our neighborhoods.
I'm gonna stop it right there. Oh, Judge O'Brown cooking cook. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, he effectively answered that question in saying, no, I don't agree that black people should have been outraged after the fact, because it's always after the fact. Like you should have been proactive, and that's a lot. That's to say a lot in today's society. We're so passive currently today that we don't take a stand for anything until after we see the aftermath and we disagree with it. It should be. This doesn't fit in the mode of how society should accept it in general. in general, society should not accept this at all. I don't agree with it. By law, it's not right. Let's oppose it. Let's oppose it and not allow for this thing to become something that afterwards we have to deal with. If you don't keep yourself informed and make informed, better decisions, you have to deal with the aftermath of what life is. Not what you want life to be, what life is. And Judge O'Brown just ultimately said, everybody who's coming to me after the fact, that's just how it is. You came to me after the fact, and that's on you. This is what you've done. This is what you allow. And for most of these crimes and these people that's went through things, literally, it's not male accountability and upbringing to make sure that we have masculine men who understand themselves, what their role is in their community, build themselves up, and help lead other young men and carry on the mantle with the young women and bring them to a better place. We just let everything like free fall in life, and it's not working out. It's not working out. Judge O'Brien comes off like a man that says the natural order of things is man, God, man, woman. God, man, law, woman. And the aspect of everything, if men can't hold up, everything else is going to fall. Men have to hold up. Men have to be accountable. And let's be real, he's speaking truth. Society at this point, men don't want to hold accountability. Women don't want to hold accountability. People just want to do whatever they want. And um, you want to do whatever you want and not get your feelings hurt at the same time. You can't do whatever you want and not feel bad about the outcomes because you didn't hold yourself to standards and try to do better. You must always try to do better. Growing and improving is an everyday routine, and you cannot just stop today just because you don't feel like it. So, I'll let everybody watch the rest of this interview, but Judge O'Brown just hit it on the head. Accountability, male accountability for doing what's right, and like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah.